Hello all, my name is Charles Shin, and this is my final project for Sociology 301, Projections of Doomsday. One thing that was questioned was, do Doomsday films reflect society? And one quote that was by Bowman in 2015 was, yet films do reveal a certain truth, while westerns, mobster films, or high school films, which were just to name a few clusters of films that share a similar style, form, and content, may not paint an accurate picture about life in the Old West, in the Mafia, or in high school. These films, if viewed systematically, tell us truths about the culture that produces and consumes them. The sociological imagination is the ability to see things socially and how they interact and influence each other. For this project, we will be looking at how Doomsday films influence society, or how society influences cinema. To have a sociological imagination, one must be able to pull away from the situation and think of it from an alternative point of view. Is society concerned with nuclear war? When Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb was produced and released in 1964, the United States was in a Cold War with the USSR. Many individuals feared the possibility of a nuclear war with the USSR and the possibility of total annihilation. We also see that society was concerned with the possibility of one rogue general acting on his own without the approval of the United States government, and the government not being able to stop a nuclear war. The Book of Eli was produced over 45 years later, and we still see society's concern with nuclear war. When the Book of Eli was released, the United States was fighting in two wars in the Middle East. In one of those wars, the U.S. Army was searching for weapons of mass destruction. Society may have been subconsciously concerned with the possibility of nuclear war with Iraq, Iran, or North Korea, and the concern of what life would be like after the nuclear fallout. What about race and ethnicity in cinema? Russell describes the dominant gaze as the tendency of mainstream culture to replicate, through narrative and imagery, racial inequalities and biases which exist throughout society. We do see this in movies such as I Am Legend and The 12 Monkeys. The dominant gaze can be used in I Am Legend while watching Will Smith be questioned while trying to save his family by a lower enlisted soldier, even though Will Smith is a higher ranking soldier. While he's alone, and we can also see it while he's alone in his residence listening to Bob Marley. There are also other references throughout the movie that can be viewed. Additionally, in 12 Monkeys, James Cole, the main character, is viewed as unstable, and those above him question his decision-making abilities. Now, one thing is, can the dominant gaze be applied to social class as well? I believe it can. I think it can be applied to other identifying characteristics such as gender, sexual orientation, religion, and disability, as long as it's used by the dominant society. What about masculinity in Doomsday cinema? Masculinity has changed throughout Doomsday films. In The Terminator, we saw the Terminator and Kyle Reese as stereotypical masculine men who had one goal each, to kill Sarah Connor and to save Sarah Connor. The Terminator was released after a defeat in Vietnam, and as Michael A. Messner described in The Masculinity of the Governator, this was the re-masculinization of America. However, in the 2010s, things had changed in the masculinization of America. We saw fathers as caring and compassionate, such as in the movie 2012. The father's goal was to save his family, his ex-wife, and his ex-wife's boyfriend. In I Am Legend, we saw Will Smith risk his own life to save humanity's. However, he also showed it was okay to cry when he had to put his dog down. In the Book of Eli, Eli risks his life and his life's mission to save the life of a young female who is stuck in a colony with a man who beats her and her mother. How does society feel about the treatment of others in Doomsday films? As Perrine noted in Film and the Nuclear Age, the period after the 1940s is known as the Age of Anxiety. We see this directly represented in Doomsday films, from Dr. Strangelove, I Am Legend, 2012, and every other movie we watched throughout this class. In many of these films, we see that a dominant or ruling class takes control of a society that was unprepared for the coming destruction. In War for the Planet of the Apes, it's not humans that we see as the ones who are being subjected to domination, it's the apes. The movie begins with Caesar wanting peace, but is not afforded that peace because of a paranoid colonel. These depictions in Doomsday films show us that we must be able to coexist with each other or we will perish. It reflects how society is fearful that one person or one group having too much power may be able to overrun the others. The depiction of uncontrollable events in Doomsday films in popular cinema shows that society has little to no faith in their governments to respond in a reasonable amount of time to protect all its citizens. According to Wrigler, after 9/11 there was a demand for disaster doomsday films. Was this because society had little to no faith in their administration to combat climate change, or did they want to see disasters that were more devastating than what occurred on 9/11 to make them feel better about themselves? Additionally, in disaster movies, we frequently see that those who are the elite are only concerned with their own survival and not the survival of humanity. To me, this is a reflection that society believes that the elite will leave the lower class to perish because the elite believe the lower class did not try hard enough the first time, and what would be different if they were saved or not. So in conclusion, as shown above in the quote by Wrigler, films do mirror the current society. While some members of society do not always want to watch doomsday films, a lot of society is drawn to them. Many of these films can reflect about how we feel as a society as a whole or just a small section of society. In The Terminator, we wanted to remasculinize the American man. In movies with uncontrollable events, we see that society has little to no faith in our government to take action to save society, and that the elites do not care about the lower class. We also see that a portion of society is not prepared, they will become slaves to the ones that are prepared. However, to get these understandings in doomsday films, one must use their sociological imagination to dig deeper while watching these films.